Been unreal. It's so unreal because this is so private for me. Because when I started, it's a story my dad used to tell me. It's something that I've been thinking about for a while. When I started writing it, it was just for me. It was never meant. I mean, I never thought that anybody would actually give money to make it. And then other people came on board. Now we've made it. It's a TIFF. I just finished it before leaving. Like literally a few days before leaving is when we finished the film, the final mix in the lab. So I think it hasn't really sunk in yet, the experience. I think next year, this time when TIFF happens and I'm, in Bombay, I'll be like, oh my God, last year was a TIFF, and that's when the experience will solidify into memory. I have to say it's just the story itself because I never really wanted to direct or anything. I didn't have any directorial aspirations. I didn't even ever want to write. It seemed like a lot of work. It's just that I personally found the story so fascinating that just thinking about it and developing it and identifying what it is about the story that was fascinating, it and in that process it just grew and it became a bigger story to a point that I felt like now I have to write it out. And then once I'd written it, I was like, this could be a movie and this should be a film, and I'm gonna have to direct it because didn't want to give it to anybody else to direct it after I was slogging over the script myself for 7 drafts. Several people on board to help me, and especially Martin Rabarts from the NFDC Script Lab, where the script really went through several drafts in that process. I learned early on in my acting career detachment, which was, I think, just like an important lesson in life as well. Because many times when you're acting in a film, it's like initially my early years of my acting career, I would just make myself so unhappy because I'd be like, oh, this is not good. Why are they doing this like this? This should not be like this. I should be like this. So I just learned to kind of cut off and detach as much as possible. And here I was the opposite. So that was really refreshing. It was really liberating. It was liberating not to be in hair makeup wardrobe on a set, and just like, push my hair back or just to rub my face whenever I needed to rub the sweat off. That itself was very liberating. It was amazing to be able to be in charge of all the different components that go into making a scene, into making the film. And that, I mean, it is exhausting to have to, but I enjoy the details. I really enjoy um, fleshing out the little details of things, and to be able to do that, it was my first time that I was able to do that. That was very rewarding. That was very interesting. It's something that I haven't been able to do as an actor at all. I mean, only in a very limited scope, limited capacity. I wish that I could just do films that I really wanted to do because of the merit of the script or the merit of the part. But often one has to do films, keeping your career in mind, keeping financial objectives in mind. So it's not like it's a perfect career like that. So one has all kinds of films, in the course of a career. But I've I've been lucky that I've got interesting roles that I've got to portray from all different kind of aspects of women or society. Some of them more interesting than others. I did notice that though after I had my child that the roles really dried up. There were not so many interesting roles because I don't think that like people want to tell stories about women in their 30s. I think that by and large the decisions of what's going to be the content decisions are taken by men in their 40s and 50s and 60s, and I think that very often they want to tell stories about women in their 20s. I think it's my parents and my upbringing. I've had like my parents have been really unconventional, very liberal, very bohemian kind of an upbringing, lifestyle, etc. And because I think my parents are very comfortable in their identities and in being who they are and living life on their own terms, I've seen them lead by example while retaining a set of like core values that we probably all share. They have done what they needed to do to make themselves happy, and while at the same time being really affectionate, and there was a lot of love in that environment, but it was very unconventional. What that has made me, I think, is uh, being okay with being different. So I'm comfortable being on the outside. I'm comfortable being different, or I enjoy being on the periphery of the action. I enjoy the identity of being an outsider. I feel it gives you a different perspective, and I find that interesting. It's interesting that you asked this, because I believe that Aligarh, just now, which I haven't seen, but I know that it's about a homosexual professor who was treated really badly in Aligarh University. And I think that that film now is coming on television, and they've actually bleeped out the word homosexual. So speaking of change, I don't know how much change is really going around, and especially in terms of, I think, policy. I maybe there's some amount of individual change, and that will eventually impact policies, I'm hoping. I would say that it is a flawed system. I don't think any system is perfect. I think that one of the major drawbacks of the system, from just my point of view, is that the budget of a film and the budget of a film dictates so many things. Of course, it lends itself to more creativity, because I think when you have certain restraints, you're forced to think in lateral and parallel ways, which is interesting always. But when the budget of a film is dictated by how big the stars are in your film, then you're only looking at a film from a business point of view, and I don't think you can do that with films. I don't think that works necessarily. I think it's just that fine balance of looking at it as art and looking at it as business, and you have to be able to straddle both of them, because otherwise neither is going to work. But I think despite that, I mean, every year inevitably we have some gems coming out, even from the Indian film industry, which is heartening. Um, I think that it means that there is talent, and there are people to watch it. It's just, and I say that it happens despite the system, and I think that change is really gradual and really slow. I think a lot of the onus is not just on the filmmakers and in the industry. I think a lot of that is also on the audience, because if the audience taste is not more open-minded, if they're not more mature, then that it's not going to reflect. And I think one of the ways we can counter that or help is probably by having some kind of film education at an early level in schools. I think that it's important that children are made aware of different kinds of films. If you see songs that children know nowadays, it's only from Hindi films. They have no idea of folk songs, of regional songs from their state or other states, and we used to have a rich tradition of this. And it's just so sad when even in my son's school they celebrate, Maria Montessori Day, and they're singing songs from Hindi films. It just makes no sense to me. So I think that that's important, to be more open and more aware. And I think that that is something that can be inculcated into children. That, of course, Bollywood exists, and that is an important and interesting, culturally specific kind of cinema, but that other things also exist. It's just that, like, now when I come out, not now, I mean for a while now, people think that so when they think that I've made an Indian film, they assume automatically that it's going to be, a romantic musical kind of film, because that is what India makes, and it's not. It is the bulk of what we make, but it's not everything. And that's sad, and that needs to change. And I think it's good if people learn like other cultures, because more than anything else, I think it teaches us tolerance, and that people exist differently in different places, and that people are allowed to be different. We're always circumscribing people into a particular box, and I think my film also hopefully tries to deal with that, of what we expect from masculinity, and what it is to be, masculine, or how these expectations then in turn affect us and our interactions with other people, and how these interpersonal dynamics are very interesting. How we expect other people to behave, and how that interaction shapes their own behavior, and it goes back and forth with that.